Hi, Annie.
Hi, of
It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
course. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to say first and foremost, welcome to the Kula. You are a newer member of the Kula, although you and I have known each other for years from the Happy You days and practicing in person. And you've dipped in here and there, and now you're a full blown member.
Yes, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. That was like a very wonderful gift that I gave to myself, was to finally join the club. I've been thinking about it, and again, like you said, popping in and out, and I read the emails that come, and I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna do it.
I'm so glad you did. And it was really great because when I sent out the email right before the start of May about Mental Health Month, you responded not only saying, I think it's time for me to join, but you said, I just want to offer myself as a resource for this topic as we enter into Mental Health Month, that this is your area of expertise, and you so graciously offered to consult or to be a resource or to share a little bit. And I instantly was like, yes, let's meet and have a chat, because we're always learning and this is such an important topic. So thank you for that. So just, maybe just to get started, if why don't you just tell us a little bit about what it is that you do for work and your specialty, and where sort of a bit about just your education, and what it is that you're doing and why mental health is so important to you.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate being here because I could talk for hours and hours and days. I love what I do. I'm very fortunate that I've found, a career that's also what I love. And so it's, even when I'm done with my work day, I'm thinking about and I'm learning and I'm still very excited. I've been in the field 15 years and I still love it. So I'm a social worker by training. I have my master's in social work and have worked with mostly kids and families for that whole time, 15 years, and in particular in schools. So what I do now is I oversee a team of, I'm in Colorado, and so we have one of our big school districts has what they're called school-based therapists, and it's a mental health center, but we contract with the school district, and so there are 50 lucky schools in our district that have therapists on site.
Wow.
So it's separate from what they do, all of the school counseling stuff is separate from that. It really is like an outpatient therapy office on site at the school. And so, yeah, we see thousands of kids, and it's really great because so many times there's so many barriers to kids getting mental health services they need. There are, getting to offices is hard. There are financial restraints. And so we really, in addition to the therapy, our huge goal is just destigmatizing mental health and teaching kids from preschool to, we even have a GED program up through 21, teaching kids like, yep, just like you go to the doctor, just like you go to the dentist, like mental health is so important. So yeah, that's what I get to do is I get
Wow,
to
that's incredible.
realize, yeah,
So what
I
was
can.
it like for you this past year, especially?
Oh, this year, I don't need to say it, has been so rough. And I think our kids are amazing and resilient. And they have really been through the ringer, as have, I mean, everyone has, but I think families and kids have really, um, they have had to deal with a lot of issues and all the things. And so I think I do really think that I don't necessarily think it's all entirely because of COVID or because of quarantine or because of social justice and political. I don't think it's necessarily because of that. I think those have all exacerbated a lot of what has already been there for a long time, that we've just been very busy and avoidant of facing. And so I think it was just kind of this year of a perfect storm of we all need to look at what is happening at ourselves, at our relationships, at our jobs, at all of it. We didn't have the opportunity to, seek outside because we were all home
Right.
for a really long time.
And were you able to still work with kids during that time?
Yeah, we do. So I right now mostly do consulting and supervising, but our therapists, our schools closed for about the first half of the year, end of last year and the first half of this school year. And then we've been back since maybe December, but it's been all over the place. I'm sure, again, anyone familiar with schools can relate. There have been quarantines all the time. There have been, different cohorts, and but our team is back full time now in schools. They've been back full time since March. And the plan is to be full time again starting next year. And
That's
just kind of
great.
roll with the changes that come, and quarantines, and we figure it out and we switch. So it's been a year of flexibility and adaptability for sure in our schools.
Wow. So from your vantage point, I mean, I'm sure it's hard to distill it down because you already said so many interesting things, but like from your vantage point now, um, I don't know, looking back over the pandemic time from this vantage point, are there any like takeaways, anything that you have I don't know, seen or know to be particularly true as like just something that's like, wow, when you look back on it, something that you, from with your eye that you're like, wow, X, Y, and Z is really
Yeah.
evident to me.
Yes. So I think in particular, and it's something I've always known, and yet I've seen it this year in particular, is we are built to survive. Like we are as humans, we are built to survive on a cellular level. Our cells know what to do to fix themselves to survive. Our hearts know often what they need to survive. Our bodies protect us in order to survive. And so, I think we've seen positives and negatives about that throughout the whole year. Again, our bodies, we talk a lot about fight or flight, or, the collapse response of the nervous system. All of those, again, are built to protect us, but they're built to be short term. And so we've spent a year plus, kind of in these survival modes. And so I think, again, that's been one hard thing about the past year, is that now that we're finally coming through, we're giving ourselves this much space to say, whoa, I'm not okay, actually. And now that I've had time to take those breaths, because I'm not focusing only on survival, I need some help. And so I think, it's a beautiful, it's been very challenging. And the beautiful thing, and what I know to be true, is we, on every level of our body, our minds, our hearts, our organs, everything, like we are built to survive. And I think we've seen so much of that this year.
That makes so much sense. And that's, I don't know, my first response to that was just like, oh, right. I don't have to try to figure it all out. Like it's in me, and I can rely on a certain extent to just the infinite intelligence of my own system.
Yeah.
And also how just exhausting it has been to be running in that way for this period of time. So what do we do? So now what? Like, and also I also think like there's probably got to be a certain amount of patience we need to have with ourselves as we like come back to normal, that we're not just going to be like, okay, now I can be out in public again, no masks, whatever. Like, so I don't know, what are some thoughts about that?
Absolutely. I think you just named it, like that breath that comes often from the validation, whether it's validating ourselves or hearing from other people. Like that's what helps our nervous system be like, oh yeah, like being seen. And sometimes, again, we don't often see within ourselves. We tell ourselves, like, if I just do all the things, if my to-do list is perfect enough, if I plan all of the things, if I do all of the things, then I can kind of like bypass this pain and all of these really hard things that are happening. Because the goal, a lot of times we tell ourselves, like, then I'm going to be happy, or I'm going to be fine. And so the temptation is often to skip over the not fine part. But what happens is, again, our body is built to survive, and it's saying, wait. I need you to see me, though, that I'm not okay right now. I need you to notice that I'm not okay. And then I can start to heal myself and move forward. And so really giving ourselves that permission to say, hey, I'm actually not okay. Or even if you think you're okay, hey, I have been through everything over the past year, and I just need to take a minute and notice that, and be in whatever that is. You hear stories of people who, and I'll share about myself included, who got the vaccine and just burst into tears. And it wasn't necessarily about like, oh, I'm so relieved because I'm not going to get sick. It was just this release of all of the things because we finally had one moment to be like,
Right.
I have not been okay this whole time. And this is this much space to recognize that I haven't been okay. And this is this much hope that I'm going to be okay.
Mm. It's a call for self-compassion,
Mm-hmm.
right? To be like, we've been through a lot. And just because everybody else went through it too doesn't diminish your own experience. Because I hear so many people, and even you said it, and I say it too, where you're things like, well, you don't need, I mean, we all know it was really hard. We've all been going through it. And yet every person's experience has been so different. And everybody is bringing with them different levels of trauma to some degree
Yep.
or another. And there's a process, and it's so important that we're able to talk about it. And that's I'm so grateful that this mental health awareness as a month happens and gives us really the invitation to bring it to the forefront. But it's one of many things that I think is coming to the forefront naturally this whole past year and so on. So can I just ask, like, in terms of yes, self-compassion and permission to be honest and be like, maybe I'm not feeling okay. Are there some like very specific practices or ways that you suggest or have seen work well in terms of what that actually looks like? Because sometimes we're like, okay, I'm just going to be that way. And then you're like sitting in a room and you're like, now,
Yeah. What do I do?
now what? Like, I'm sorry you're sad, or I'm sorry you're anxious, but like, what does it really look like in practice is, from where you sit and what you've seen?
Yeah. I love that you tied together mental health with creativity this month. And I was thinking a lot about that. And I watched your and Tierney's video at the very beginning, just talking about it. And I loved when there was a piece you were talking about having a date with ourselves and doing those pieces of that, because that is so important. Like being very intentional about setting aside time to just be. And I think it's everything you talk about on the mat and off the mat. It is, mindfulness for those of us who have super busy brains, and again, try to like plan our way out of pain or plan our way around these hard things, to really just be in and noticing what is, because again, that wisdom our bodies have knows it. And if we can say, okay, today, I'm going to go to a park today and I don't have an agenda and I don't have a plan. It's the same thing. That's where our creativity comes from. That's the creativity comes because our bodies have a moment to just be in what is. And that's when the love flows. That's when the creativity flows. That's when rage flows sometimes too. Again, the goal is not to be fine and great all the time. The goal is really to just be regulated in whatever you are feeling. So if that means sitting in whatever comes up and I'm going to breathe through this, or I'm going to walk through this, or I'm going to pray through this, or I'm going to chant through this, or whatever it is, it's teaching our bodies, it's okay that I have all these, you're okay. We are going to be okay. And we know how to do this because again, it's that trust in our bodies and in ourselves. When those feelings do come up, sometimes that's where, we talk a lot about self-talk, where that comes in. You're nurturing, you're rocking the baby that's really yourself. You're nurturing, you're okay, I'm okay, we're okay. And really riding out those waves can be very powerful. And again, it sounds so simple, and yet so often we don't do it. It's, oh, this is painful, so I'm gonna go for a run, or I'm gonna turn on music. And those are all very helpful things. And we're still kind of chasing and running away from what is without validating it and naming it and honoring it.
Sure. And so what I think I'm hearing you say too is that it's not about trying to fix anything or change anything. It's about acknowledging, simply seeing what is. And just the way we all individually as humans, like as a holistic being, want to be seen and acknowledged as taking up space on this planet, that our inner child that is still scared and exhausted and doesn't know what's going to happen and everything wants to also be seen. And I think we're afraid when we acknowledge that part, or that if we acknowledge that part of ourselves, or if we acknowledge that voice, that it's going to get worse, or that it's going to come true. There's like some sort of magical thinking or something that happens. And yet once it's seen, then it's seen, and then it changes and it shifts and it morphs and it softens.
Regardless of the modality therapists use, there are all these, and we can get very heady and in the weeds about, I use this modality, whatever. All of it says exactly that. You have to, with little kids, we talk about name it to tame it, right? You name what they're doing. That we need that as 90-year-olds too, right? Like that is what it is. Name it, validate it, see it. And we again we have so much fear. And again, because our bodies are built to survive, they tell us, don't look there, don't look behind that, that dark door, that closet is full of scary things. Just don't look there, you'll be fine. Our bodies it's beautiful. Our brains do a beautiful job of protecting us. And when we don't need that protection anymore, it ends up showing up in really harmful, maladaptive ways that then cause our struggles, actually. And so you're exactly right. Seeing it, noticing it, validating it. Every bit of research shows that actually reduces symptoms and reduces stress and reduces anxiety and reduces depression, if we can name it and see it and be with it.
I hope that anyone watching this like really lets that sink in, because that's major. And I think that the work we're doing with the Kula this month and the Artist's Way, and that we're really encouraging everyone to be doing morning pages at whatever time of the day, but to be working through and actually acknowledging, like, that's such a safe place to acknowledge the feelings and the thoughts. And it's usually once you've gone through a few layers, page 1 and page 2, and then by the time you get to page 3, like something profound, like something comes out that you're like, wow, and then it's been seen, and then there's a lightness that comes. And then take that with the artist's date and that idea of like, take your inner child on a date, like spend time, do something you used to love to do when you were a kid. Like, all of those things are extraordinarily healing, not to mention, of course, making time for your yoga practice, your meditation practice, and connecting with other people, like this, and connecting with a community of people that, or even just one person that, like you said, can help to validate that what you're going through, you're not alone. That's so important.
And I think that's one piece you named. I think if any one person's experience during the past year and a half, if the rest of the world hadn't been going through it, what would we do? We would circle that person with love. We would say, oh my goodness, look at you. I can't believe that everything you've gone through. We would validate the heck out of them. And yet, because we're in this collective trauma, and I would call it trauma, I think we, again, minimize our own stuff and we don't want to call it trauma, or it's trauma. We as a country, as a world, are traumatized, and we're all in it together. And in that, we invalidate ourselves. And it's so easy to say, someone else's COVID journey has been so much harder than mine. Look what this person's been through. And and in doing that, it's helpful. It's always nice to be supportive of other people, and we just invalidate ourselves. And so I think it's so important to notice, yes, everyone has gone through this, and everyone has struggled through this, myself included. And there have been many times I didn't get what I needed in this past year and a half. And just naming that and honoring that is so important.
Thank you so much for that. I think maybe just to close with, I think it sounds like, we think about courage and being strong, and we want, in those of us that are moms, like, we want to be so strong for our kids, and you're working with kids and all that, and you think about, okay, let me be brave, and I'm just gonna get it together, and I'm just gonna barrel forward. And I think that really, maybe just some food for thought is maybe the idea is that the real courage is actually being willing to take a step back and to really just be with and start this work of processing, if we haven't already, processing what has been a really, really difficult year. And because if we don't process it now, you and I both know, like, it doesn't just go away. It gets lodged somewhere, and then it comes out usually at a really inconvenient time down the road.
Yep.
Right. And so maybe, strumming up and some bravery to be willing to be quiet with ourselves and to be patient and to love on ourselves, rather than to feel like we just need to rush and to barrel through and get out there and be normal again.
Yeah, because how brave is it to look at scary things? Oh my goodness, that's the most brave thing you can do, right? It's much braver to say, to look and just with a curious mind wonder what is there, that again our beautiful brains have protected us from for
Mhm.
survival, and to be able to say, I can take some time to not only focus on survival, and I can look at all the times where I had to shove these really painful things aside because there wasn't room or time for them. How brave is that to then make room and time for them to hang out with you?
Totally. Oh, thank you so much. I could geek out on this forever too. This is awesome. I feel like you and I could talk for hours, and
Yes,
hopefully maybe we can have another chat um uh coming up sometime in the near future, because our work is not done. I'm just so
right.
grateful to not be in it alone, and that I have you and so many incredible people in this community, and that we can keep the conversation going. So, Annie, thank you so much. And to anybody watching, be sure to welcome Annie when you see her in class or in Kula chats. And if you have any questions or want to contact her, or give any feedback or food for thought for this conversation, just let me know. You can respond back to me, or we can connect in the Mighty Network. So, Annie, thank you so much, sister.
Thanks so
You're
much,
amazing.
Karson. I've loved talking to you.
You too. Keep doing your incredible work.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
too.
Mwah.